Hello friends, welcome to the point. In this session, we are discussing about Union Council of Ministers or Central Council of Ministers. Indian Constitution provides a parliamentary system of government and that it is modeled by a British pattern. This Council of Ministers, they are headed by the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister will be the real executive authority. Article 74, it deals with the status of Council of Ministers, and Article 75, it deals with appointment, tenure, responsibility, qualification, oath, and salaries and allowances of the ministers. But what is exactly the principles of parliamentary system? It is not mentioned detailedly in our constitution. Only these two articles are, that is Article 74 and 75. It deals with the fundamental things of this system. Article 74, it deals with Council of Ministers to aid and advise the President. Article 74 states that there shall be a Council of Ministers along with the Prime Minister to head and to advise the President. The advice given by this Council of Ministers, it should be with the respect of the functions performed by the President. Once the advice is given to the President, he may also tell the Council of Ministers to reconsider advice. The Council of Ministers once again reconsiders the advice, and once the advice is given after reconsideration, the President should act according to it. And also, the advice given by the Council of Ministers to the President, it cannot be inquired in any court. Article 75, it deals with other provisions as to ministers. These other provisions, it may be related to the appointment, tenure, responsibility, qualification, oath, and salaries of these ministers. Prime Minister will be appointed by the President, and this Council of Ministers, they will be appointed by the President but on the advice of the Prime Minister. The strength of the ministers, it should not exceed 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha, including the Prime Minister. And this provision, it was added in 91st Amendment Act 2003. According to Article 75, the minister should not hold office of profit, and the ministers will hold office only during the pleasure of the President. That means the President can dissolve them at any time. All this Council of Ministers, they will be collectively responsible for the Lok Sabha. The President will administer the oath of office and the secrecy to a minister. A minister, whoever is not a member of either of the house, then within 6 months, they should become a member either of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Else, they lose their positions. Article 77, Conduct of Business of the Government of India. Executive actions of the government, it will be expressed in the name of the President. According to Article 77, the President will make a rule for a transaction of the business of the Government of India and also for allocating business among the ministers. Article 78, it includes the duties of Prime Minister. The duty of a Prime Minister is that he should communicate all the discussions and decisions of the Council of Ministers that is related to the administration affairs and the proposal for legislation. And if suppose says that there should be a reconsideration about the matter, and at that time it is a duty of the Prime Minister to inform the Council of Ministers to reconsider the advice. Article 88, Rights of Ministers as respects the houses. Every minister have the right to speak and take part in the proceeding of either house, that is Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, and any joint sitting of the house and any committee of a parliament of which the person belongs to. But the minister is not entitled to vote. Appointment of ministers in India. The Prime Minister is appointed by the President, and the other ministers, they are appointed by the President but on the advice of the Prime Minister, and the advice is binding on the President. We can also say that President can appoint only the persons those who are recommended by the Prime Minister. The members of the Parliament, maybe either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, they are appointed as ministers. A person who is not a member of any of the house can also be appointed as a minister, but within 6 months of his joining, he should become either a member of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Else, he loses his position as a minister. A minister who is member of a Lok Sabha, he has a right to speak and take part in the proceedings of Rajya Sabha, but he can vote only in Lok Sabha. In the same way, a minister who is a member of Rajya Sabha, he has a right to speak and take part in the proceedings of the Lok Sabha, but he can vote only in the Rajya Sabha. Before entering into his office, the Prime Minister should take an oath or he should make an affirmation that he will bear a true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India and he will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India and he faithfully and consciously discharge the duties of his office and he will do right to all manner of people in accordance with the constitution and the law without any fear or favor or affection or ill will. Minister also has an oath of secrecy and in his oath of secrecy the minister has to promise that he will not directly or indirectly discuss about any matters that is brought under his consideration. The remaining things such as salaries and allowances of a minister, it will be decided in the parliament and the minister gets the salary and allowances that is payable to a member of the parliament. And additionally, also the minister gets free accommodation, traveling allowances, medical facilities, etc. Responsibility of a ministers. Minister has three responsibilities: collective responsibility, individual responsibility, and no legal responsibility. Collective responsibility, it is a fundamental principle of the working of parliamentary system. And Article 75, it states that the Council of Ministers, they are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. And that means all the ministers, they own a joint or equal responsibility to the Lok Sabha for all their acts of omission and commission. When the Lok Sabha passes a no confidence motion against the Council of Ministers, and at that time, all the ministers have to resign, including the members or including the ministers who are from Rajya Sabha. Clearly, we can come to a conclusion that all the ministers, they have a collective responsibility. They should work as a team. They should swim together or else sink together. The principle of collective responsibility means that the cabinet decisions, it binds all the cabinet ministers, even if the opinions are different in their meetings. If suppose any minister disagrees with the cabinet decision, then immediately he should resign. Several ministers have resigned due to this reason. For example, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he had resigned because of these differences with his colleagues on the Hindu Code Bill 1953. Individual responsibility of ministers. Article 75, it contains the principle of individual responsibility and it means that the ministers will hold the office only during the pleasure of president. This indicates that a president can remove a minister even when the council of minister enjoys the confidence of the Lok Sabha. But still, the president removes a minister only on the advice of prime minister. And if there is a difference of opinion or dissatisfaction with the performance of a minister, and then the prime minister, he can ask the president to remove the minister. Or the prime minister can directly say the minister to resign. No legal responsibility. In Britain, every order of the king for any public act, it will be countersigned by a minister. And if the order is in violation of any law, the minister will be held and he will be responsible for such an act since he have signed the act and he also will be liable in the court. Whereas in India, there is no provision in the constitution for the system of legal responsibility of a minister. and hence once the president gives his assent to the act, and then it will not be countersigned by any of the ministers, or it cannot be moved to any of the court for the enquiry. Composition of Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers consists of three categories. They are senior ministers or cabinet ministers, or junior ministers, or they are also called as ministers of the state, and deputy ministers. The difference between them is their ranks, emoluments, and political importance. And above all these ministers stands Prime Minister. He is the supreme governing authority of the country. The senior ministers, that is his cabinet ministers, they will lead all the important ministries of the central government like home, defense, finance, external affairs, and so on. Junior ministers or ministers of the state, they can either be given independent charge of ministries or departments, or they can be attached to the cabinet ministers. In case of attachment, they may either be given the charge of departments, which is headed by the cabinet ministers, or they may also allot a specific items of work which is related to the ministries, and that is headed by the cabinet ministries. In both the cases, they work under the supervision and the guidance of cabinet ministers. And next to ministers of the state lies a deputy ministers. They are not given any independent charge of ministries or departments, but they are attached to the cabinet ministers or ministers of a state, and they assist them their administrative, political, and parliamentary duties. And deputy ministers, they are not a members of cabinet, and they do not attend any cabinet meeting. Difference between cabinet and council of ministers. Cabinet is a smaller body which consists of 15 to 20 ministers. Council of Ministers, it is a wider body and it consists of 60 to 70 ministers. Cabinet includes only the cabinet ministers, and whereas the Council of Ministers include all the three category ministers, they are cabinet ministers, ministers of the state, and deputy ministers. Cabinet directs the Council of Ministers by taking policy decisions which are binding on all the ministers. Council of Ministers, their functions are determined by the Cabinet. Cabinet meets as a body frequently, and they usually once in a week. But Council of Minister, that does not meet as a body to transact government business. Hence, there is no collective functions, whereas Cabinet has a collective functions. Cabinet exercises all the powers of the Council of Ministers, whereas Council of Ministers power, it is vested only in theories. Cabinet is said to be the highest decision making authority, and it is a chief policy formulating body of the central government. It has a supreme executive authority of central government. Also, the cabinet deals with all the foreign policies and foreign affairs. See you in the next session with some other interesting topic. Thank you.